Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Global Book Network. My name is Boyce, and I am here joined by someone that's a little bit after my own heart. You see, the writer of Monster John, a twisted thriller with horror elements, and I like to sink my teeth into content quite like this, and I'm sure you will too. Please welcome the author, Justin Pettyjohn, to the show. How's it going, sir?
Hey Flo, thanks for having me. It's going good, sir. Pleasure to be here today.
Yeah, I mean, pleasure is really is all mine because as someone who's written a comic book himself, someone who's written novels in the thriller space myself, I love twisted stories. I love twisted characters. So be able to chop it up with you today, it's kind of an honor.
Sir, thank you. And I definitely have much respect for that because a lot of my writings and a lot of my vision and imagination come from those same very comic books. So I'm a big comic book head, Marvel, DC guy, Impact Comics. Yeah,
Oh, who was your
right here.
guys growing up? Who was your or guys and gals? Like who were your comic book heroes
Oh
growing
man.
up?
Well, I guess I could start on the Marvel side. And I was a big fan of Wolverine for a while. I mean, just he's just rugged, right? He just never goes away. And regardless of how many times we see in the comic of him dying, he comes back, right? Just that adamantium, that healing factor, it just makes him, I want to say almost indestructible, unstoppable, but he just keeps coming. So yeah, I gotta say, like, he was probably like my favorite X-Men. I did follow Captain America a lot. That was a big motivation for myself, which kind of inspired me when I joined the military because I am a veteran.
Yeah.
I did 6 years in the Air Force, 6 years in the Army. So and a lot of inspiration came from heroes like Captain America. Um, I can think probably on the DC side, of course. I'm a big Superman guy. Okay, Batman's cool and all, but see, guys don't understand. Like, I mean, yeah, there's been many times Batman's beaten Superman, but let's really get serious here. Superman Prime 1 million, there's no way. We're talking about a guy that can sneeze and destroy a whole universe. There's nothing to compare.
110%, man. Like everyone talks about
Mhm.
Batman being Superman, but Superman can beat Batman in half a panel.
There you go.
I'm a civilian, but if you look on my wall there, I'm actually an honorary
Mhm.
commander over at Travis Air Force Base. I get to work alongside some of the Air Force
Wow,
units there, so
awesome.
I get to walk on the base and beat things. But thank you for your actual service.
Mhm.
So let's talk about Monster
Oh, thank you.
John, man. The impetus of writing something that is so dark and so twisted. I'm just kind of curious. The idea one, but how'd you put things together without slipping into a dark space yourself?
Sure. Monster John was actually created back in 2006, and this was around during the time I was still in the military. If I could say, a lot of times when you're under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, um, you tend to react in a way that you don't know how you're going to react. No one knows. I mean, we kind of have an idea, but you don't know what you're going to do and how you're going to respond. So I was presented with, just to be tested in, various environments. Like, of course, I went to Iraq when the war first kicked off. I was in Afghanistan as well. Um, Under immense a lot of stress. For me, since I had always had that good imagination of thinking of not to say so much horror type of things in business, so to speak,
Yeah.
but I use my imagination to say, well, hey, what if I would just create this guy, Monster John, and at the time, I was kind of thinking of a guy that would be more played for like a movie, who would actually come after young couples and murder them, and just take out this intense like mean streak on people, and that was just how he, uh, you know, how he pretty much lived life. That was just how he just saw things as being a mass murderer, so to speak. So at the time, I was thinking of ideas because one of my fellow Air Force friends, they were like, "Hey, man, why don't you think about getting into movie scene?" Because I was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base at the time in Vegas.
Mhm.
So, I got to see a lot of stars would come in and out, and had opportunities to try to, maybe pursue some type of acting or whatever the case may have been. But I just know then, I had these ideas and I just didn't know what to do with them. But I came up with this idea. I said, "Wait, what do I pitch this idea? Maybe if I can't make the movie, but make a movie about this guy." He goes after these young couples, but he also came from a traumatic childhood himself, which kind of made him into what he is now. It's a split personality and just this just onslaught that he was provide to people and just
Yeah.
wouldn't stop, until finally, being killed, right? So that's where I gotta say it started. So it started back in 2006, and then I knew that I felt it was something special. My mother was a writer, so a lot of the writing I got from her at an early age, and even her songs. We helped her write her songs that she sung naturally, and then I actually used to play the piano. So
Oh
I
wow.
didn't have any formal lessons, but I learned to play and make music towards what she was singing. So we always had that type of my brother as well had that type of abstract musical type of mindset, and just imagination. So I was always into writing, so to speak, but I just knew that I couldn't let the world not see Monster John. I just wanted to share that because I thought it would be just ingenious. I've just following behind someone like Stephen King and all his amazing, like, writings, tell stories, kind of doing something similar. I always had a love and a knack for a good horror thriller. It's something that keeps you just glued to your seat and scared and just don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, the excitement, the fear, the joy, all the pain, everything. Just to be able to spark that out of people is something special. So I think I was able to do that here with Monster John. And
Mhm.
I got to say, anybody that reads it, they're going to be for a good ride, a good horror ride for sure. So
Yeah, and you really take it to the limit. And a lot to unpack there with your answer. But the question I was having reading John's backstory is
Mhm.
you create a character with needs, wants, desires, all that stuff, the backstory, but the trauma that John experienced at a young age, that must have put you in a different place to really write that out and see why a character coming from your brain could be so quote unquote evil.
You're absolutely right. For myself, just to share a little bit about me. Um, Growing up, I was in a abusive situation. My father, he was very stern, and at times, he wanted us to get it. He just wanted us to be successful, which any parent would. I mean, they're willing to do almost whatever it takes because they want their children to be successful in life, no matter what. And I know now, understanding better why he did what he did. I give everybody grace, and I definitely took me a while. It took me a long time, but to give him grace, just for what he did put my brother and me and what we went through. It was very very traumatic, a very abusive childhood growing up for me. And at times I didn't know what to think about myself, and it took a while, a lot for me to work on myself and support from others to help me get through it. So that I would say that part of the imagination that I put together from John, yes, I do share a little bit of my background. You can always, as they say, there's always a little bit of the writing you can find, with the author within the writing. The details are, the devil are in the details, as they say.
Yeah.
It's there. So yes, that's what kind of made me divulge something so psychologically thrilling like this. And John, just in his background, not to spoil the book or anything, because it's great to read.
Yeah, please.
He's got a very hard background where he sees intense murders happening to his family, and that is something that triggers him, and that's the start of his split personality into becoming what the media calls Monster John. So
Yeah, the thing about the whole idea of nature versus nurture, right? Like, yeah, we have kind of bad environments you could be brought into the world, but then the when the media calls him Monster John, I want to ask you
right.
this: was it a thing where it's like, hey, here's somebody who's conflicted, or here's someone that really was an animal, or was it somebody who was had a chance of being brought back to the side of good, but got that label that was being hammered on him, and he kind of like lived up to his expectation, lived up to that moniker.
Yeah. He seems normal. So,
Mhm.
you know, John's always been normal. But this persona, the monster John, as we would say, the media didn't know what to call it at first. They
Mhm.
just knew of this guy, which they kind of had an idea because the detectives kind of have an idea after they trace things back, that this gentleman, at times, uh, didn't really understand, that he himself, just could become, such a threat, and just do the heinous acts that he did. The book is very graphic, and that's what it takes. It was something given because it was so graphic within the town. The media had no choice but to say, "Wow, this can't be a human doing this. This has to be a monster.
Right.
Well, obviously a man, but a monster man, a man acting, because only a monster would do such thing. Only a monster would do the savage type of killings that he does in the book. Not to give things away, but only a monster would do that. Someone, obviously of proper character, uh, and have respect for others, and obviously neighborly and in love for human beings. You obviously wouldn't do something like that.
Yeah.
But we find that John, being that he was this type of person that was normal, uh, that was quiet, loving, you know, could turn into such uh, a killer, serial killer
Yeah,
at that.
and that's what's so tragic about it. Because at the end of the day,
Yeah,
John just wanted to be loved and be seen. And then whether the situation he was, and then whether the labels got sent to him and brought down, I thought was pretty poignant because a lot of expectations with different characters, different people, different neighborhoods, or what they think the inner cities like, for example, and what they do is kind of like you wonder whether or not if they were giving a chance, you know what I mean,
right.
to find the good in
That's
people.
right.
But talk to me about crafting the fictional town or towns of Oak Haven primarily, but a little bit of Ravenshade, right? It felt to me like it was like this perpetual late October cool breeze. No
Mhm.
one's raked the leaves in months. Like, what's the process of giving a town a little bit of that character trait as well?
Sure. I wanted to have some detail to it, give it life, so to speak, and just kind of blend this town, the Oak Haven, and kind of resemble that almost as if it's a real, a small town, right? And I think that's what people like. I mean, they like to get as close as we can to real because that's something they can relate with. And even John, the character himself, I think that's something people can relate with. As scary and upsetting as that may sound. Yes, he is a relatable character. He is. I mean, throughout history, we've known, or not to say we personally have known, but known, or heard of similar type of serial killers that have done crimes that are just unspeakable, that are just straight. That's what you would call pure evil. And I think John kind of he touches that to bring that life back up. Again. Not so much to remind people to say, "Hey, this is obviously the monster that's out there. This is the evil that exists in the world," but it's the reality. I try to stay that, be a realist at the end of the day.
Mhm.
We know that there's always going to be crime. There's always going to be there's going to be good and bad. I mean, we can't push that aside and say no, it didn't exist, or live in denial. But uh, this definitely is trying to bring it closer to home so it can be relatable. That's the biggest thing, and that's what the town has to be. The town has to be something that was relatable. So that's what kind of gave me the ideas to craft that, and then also um, you know being from Pennsylvania, I did a lot of searching, understanding
Oh yeah.
Pennsylvania's got some scary towns, unknown
Oh yeah.
towns that people don't want to speak about. But believe it or not, that are haunted, that tragic things have happened. So a lot of this helps build the ideas because again, these type of towns exist, and I wanted to make it dark enough, and that imagery is in there with the scene. So there's many pictures in there as well, in each chapter that kind of just draws you in. That you kind of have an understanding based off the chapter what's about to take place, based off the image. So it kind of just drives that point home so you can be in touch more with the book.
You're absolutely right. There's so many towns in Pennsylvania are kind of scary. I can't lie. You absolutely hit the nail on the head there. And look, you have written a lot of books in a lot of different genres, and so when you decided to go into the horror slash thriller subgenres, what was in your mind missing that you wanted to contribute when you crafted a story around Master John?
I wanted to bring that style of horror out. I was really big on being a motivational leader type you know uh author, self-help, so to speak. That was really my main love, because I always like helping people. I always say, before you leave this earth, do the best you can to help others. That's what you can do. People help you, do them a favor and help them. So at any time I try to do that. Even when throughout my various careers, I was a teacher at one point. I was a high school teacher. I was a technology education teacher for about a year.
Cool.
And I definitely had a great passion then, just to teach, and even put self-help books that really weren't published per se, but was there for the students. I would come in there every day, motivate them the best I can, say, "Hey, good morning, my young geniuses," because everyone is a genius. It's just
Mhm.
they need to bring that out and understand that they're a genius, right? So, I was really big on that. Even being a mentor. I was mentoring before I became a teacher. What kind of drove into that. And again, all this relates back to my time in the military too. Um, so, really, I tried my best to want to just show I can be versatile. I
Mhm.
can I can talk to you, but I can write you something amazing about, just like Guide the Leaders. Amazing. That book was made for the leaders,
Mhm.
to help any leader strive to be the best leader they can be, and understand how they have to hold themselves accountable, and what they have to look at to what can cause them, issues of um, self sabotage, as you say. We all have self sabotagers, but a lot of time people have pride. Leaders have pride, and you don't want to admit it because you feel like you think it's a weakness, but that's wrong. That's incorrect. You not admitting it is the weakness, to be honest.
Right. Right.
That's the weakness. So that book drives a lot of that. But I wanted to show that, hey, I'm versatile. I can write about fiction, and even before Monster John, I did another one, which was more of a vampire type of tale, which is really amazing, about a gentleman named Theron Bloodborne, who's a vampire who goes against Dracula, gets thrown out, and falls in love with this lady. And I don't want to tell the story, but again, just a good love twisted fairy tale with vampires, because I always had a passion for things vampire, Dracula, going back to that comic book, Blade, all that type of stuff. I was
Yeah.
into that, so that drove that was the big driving behind that. And that's one of my biggest books. That's like over a 500-page book. So yeah, I just
Sir,
wanted
you
to
can't
prove
be
that.
out here being a vampire defying Dracula. What kind of rogue stuff is that? Well, let me ask you that too, because right, I did take a look at your
Yeah,
bibliography, and you do go into a lot of detail. Thank you, because I think a lot of authors forget how painting the picture helps out to bring out some of the aspect of the story. But how do you find the
yeah.
time? It sounds like you have three different lives going off at once. How do you find time to sit down and work on the craft?
It's work hard every day. Every day it's work. When I start planning a book, it takes me like a while. And honestly, you know how long it took me to get Guide the Leaders out? I was working on that since 2018, and I finally released it 2025. That
Yeah,
long. So that
yeah,
tells you, it took a long time, which again, that was partly my fault, because I just there was just so much I wanted to add to it, and then so much I really wanted to gather. And I was like, well, is this right? That right? Sometimes you kind of go back and forth with some of the material, and you want to make it right. I know you always want it to be perfect, but sometimes waiting too long, you might miss your mark, as they say. But it's a daily thing, man. I mean, honestly, I've got a good four good books upcoming, horror, that's upcoming in 2026, that I'm working towards. I'm darn excited. I'm darn excited,
yeah.
and readers should be excited, because if you think Monster John's a hit, you've seen nothing yet. You haven't seen anything yet, because these books, I'm telling you, they're gonna hit on every point that you just have. You if you have seen, you haven't seen in a long time, but it'll definitely keep you keep your attention and keep you excited for
Oh,
sure. So
that's something I love to hear, man. 2026 seems
yeah,
that, or even
yeah.
beyond, seems to be a lot more coming down the pipe. But we're talking about Monster John today. If someone just take a time out, take out the book, what do you expect them to extract from them to get them excited for the next books down your pipeline?
Um, I would say extracting out of this. So really look at how callous John was. He's how ruthless he is. How he put a stamp and just didn't care but to carry out his own heinous, vicious killings. Just really pay attention to that character and how he was crafted, and think of that ruthlessness, that is what you can expect in my next books coming up in 2026. There's going to be more of the ruthlessness, even more intense, aggressive, just something for you to really be excited about, because I'm excited talking about it. I mean, it makes a smile on my face because I love it, and I know you're going to love it. I know you're going to love it. I know people are going to love it. So yeah, you could definitely be ready.
Justin, thank you so much for being on the show, man. Global Book Network. But if someone wanted to
It's a
connect with
pleasure.
you, learn more about what's coming down the pipeline, or even check out Monster John, how they go about doing that.
Sure. If you want to check out Get Monster John, I mean, it's available now on Amazon, through Kindle right now. February 1st is the actual release for the hard copy of the book. So you can get the hard copy coming up February 1st. So no worries on that. And if you ever want to check me out, if you got an email anytime, it's hit me up at jwpettyjohn@gmail.com, and I'll do my best to answer you. So
Man, well, thanks so much for your time, man. Monster John really
thank
the
you, Flo.
twisted experience. It was interesting. I made sure I did it when the sunlight was out. I'm not afraid to admit that, but hopefully you get to see some more work from you down the line, man. Appreciate your time.